Welcome back to Panda Audiobooks. You are listening to Pursuit of the Truth by Jen, covering chapters 126 through 130. Su Ming has conquered the mountain and the hearts of the three tribes, but the path of a berserker never stays still for long. As the invitations from the great Heavenly Cold Sect arrive, Su Ming must navigate the final, treacherous politics of the city. He is no longer just a fugitive from the Dark Mountain. He is a rising star whose every move is being watched by the most powerful entities in the South Morning. The departure is near, and the real journey is just beginning. Chapter 126. One final question. The miasma in the deep parts of the rainforest was formed by being exposed to long periods of humidity and rot. If anyone breathed it in, they would feel weak and powerless. If they were exposed to it for a long time, then the qi in their bodies would lose its liveliness. Gradually, they would become lethargic. That was why the tribes around the area would usually only search for materials around the area and rarely venture in. Only the truly powerful berserkers that constantly circulated their qi when they entered could fend against the poison in the miasma and search within the deepest parts whenever they wanted. At that moment, Heaven remained unmoving within the deeper parts of the rainforest that were thick with the formless miasma. His pupils shrank. His body was in an incredibly weakened state. He had no way of fighting back. After all, Xianxia was a powerful berserker of the Transcendence Realm, and his intelligence was, of course, extraordinary as well. If Heaven wanted to deceive him, then he had to pay a price. Only when he was exhausted would Xianxia let down his guard, and only then would Heaven succeed. Now, when he saw Su Ming suddenly appear, Heaven was stupefied. Yet he was not a simple person. He survived when disaster befell his tribe and went through all sorts of things after that. He had already trained himself to always think of what to do next. At that moment, he may have been nervous, but almost in an instant, he schooled his face to a blank expression. Even if someone scrutinized his face, they would be hard-pressed to find any changes. "Brother, please don't joke around. I did that because I was forced to." "Ha!" Heaven looked at Su Ming walking towards him and laughed bitterly. When he spoke, the latter did not stop and continued closing in on him. Heaven's heart thumped against his chest, but his expression remained bitter with a hint of desolation. "I know that no matter how I explain myself, you won't forgive me so easily, but before you kill me, could you listen to my explanation? I did not know Xianxia in the beginning, but I met his follower once by chance, and we became good friends. I invited him back to my tribe, but I did not expect that it would bring about a disaster. Xianxia appeared and killed my parents, my younger sister, and my entire tribe. We're sworn enemies now. I cannot die. Brother, I was forced to do what I did. The burden of revenge lies upon my shoulders. My life doesn't belong to me. Within my body lies the deceased spirits of all my tribe members. They are with me waiting for me to take revenge for them. Brother, I know that what I did before was despicable, but I had no choice. If I had any other choice, I would not have dragged you into this." Heaven laughed brokenly, and his expression was filled with desolation and a burning hate towards Xianxia. Su Ming stood dozens of feet before Heaven, circulating his qi and looking at the person in front of him coolly. The first time he had met Heaven was in the inn. His clothing had caught his attention and brought about a sense of familiarity that reminded him of home, which made Su Ming like him. The second time he had seen him was at the third layer of Han Mountain City. He saw this person challenging the chains of Han Mountain and saw his resolution and determination. He also saw Xianxia crushing the souls of this person's parents, and him coughing out a mouthful of blood in his sorrow and grief. At that moment, even though there was no hint of pity in Su Ming's eyes, but in his heart, he still felt that they were in the same boat, though that pity would not be revealed so easily. The third time they had met was today. When he saw that Su Ming fell silent but was still circulating the qi in his body, hundreds of thoughts crossed Heaven's head rapidly. He still held the bottle that could heal his injuries in his hand, but he did not dare drink it, wary of Su Ming's reaction. He smiled bitterly and relaxed his right hand suddenly. That small bottle that he was going to use for healing fell into the mud by his side, but it did not sink. "Brother, I was wrong. There is some healing medicine in that small bottle. I'll give it to you. As for me, Feng took in a deep breath and struggled to lift his head to look into the sky in the distance. My tribe lies in that direction 1,000 li one away, in ruins. Brother, I don't know your name, but if you must kill me to quell your anger, then when I die, please bury me there. You can take away all my belongings as compensation for doing wrong against you. If you will forgive my mistake and give me a chance to exact my vengeance against Xianlun, then I will sign the Pact of South Mourning with you and become your follower. My life is in your hands. Do whatever you want with it. Feng said bitterly and closed his eyes, which still contained reluctance and regret. He looked like he was waiting for his fate that lay uncertain. Yet in truth, he was using this time to gather his qi. He was doing so with a special method that others would find hard to notice. The speed at which his qi gathered was becoming faster. Behind his closed eyes lay a hint of killing intent, though no one else could see it. This person may be mysterious, but he seems to only be about 20-something. He's still 2 NA.VE. With just a few words, I managed to buy more time. If he had immediately acted the moment he appeared, I wouldn't have had any time to resist and would have been killed. Now though, this person isn't the scheming type, perhaps I can continue using him. With his eyes closed, Feng's thoughts raced in his head without stopping. He laughed coldly in his heart. How did you know that I was here, and how did you know that I would help you when you fought against Xianlun? Su Ming asked in a dull tone, looking at Feng, who still had his eyes closed. Feng laughed coldly in his heart once again. To him, Su Ming was not only NA.VE, he also had within him the foolish and pitiable pity and mercy. He was already moved by his words. That was why he chose to ask those questions, giving Feng a chance to gather up his strength for a bit longer. This person is akin to me from many years ago. Ah, it's a pity. It would have been better if he did not appear, but now that he has, then he has no chance of surviving. If he dies, it'll be easier for my future plans to make Xianlun hesitate. When Feng opened his eyes, there was an honest and sincere look in his eyes, without a hint of deceit. Also, there was still that same bitterness from before. I came from a small tribe. Most of my tribe members wear beast skins. We can't compare to a middle tribe, much less Han Mountain City. I've always begrudged those in middle-sized tribes. I begrudged them for not needing to wear beast skins and begrudged them for having counterfeit berserker vessels. Feng spoke softly. But those are limited to feelings of resentment. I was never jealous. I only had a determination to make my tribe stronger. I wanted to make myself stronger. There's a special skill in my tribe. At that time, I thought I could become a guest in a middle-sized tribe with that skill and allow my tribe to gradually become stronger. The art had no name, as if it did not belong to the berserker tribe. When we inherited the art, it was also vague and unclear. No one in my tribe knew where it came from, what were its uses, but we could sense whether a person was weak or strong without using our qi. These sensations would be like a memory. If we chose to remember it with our hearts, then it'd be like a brand. As long as the other person was not too far away, we could sense them. It's precisely because of that art that I've been able to avoid Xianlun so many times over these years. When we were in the inn that night, we were the only ones there drinking. I noticed you at that moment. You may have seemed like you were only at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm, but with this art, I could sense a frightening presence from you that was equivalent to that of transcendence. At that moment, I knew that either you had an incredible treasure on you, or you had hidden your real power. That was why I left a spiritual brand on you. This brand is very mysterious. It's largely different from the other berserker arts we know of, that's why you didn't notice it. When Xianlun was after my life, I came here based on that feeling to seek your protection. This art may seem weak, but there are a lot of uses for it. You don't seem like you're from the tribes around the area. I have a bamboo slip regarding this art in my bosom. You can take it and check the truth of my statement. Feng was not lying. He was someone who thought a lot and in detail. Even if it was to drag out time, he would not reveal any holes in his words. He chose instead to put on an expression full of bitterness with a hint of nostalgia when he spoke words that would incite pity. To drag out time, he was aiming to touch Su Ming's emotions and use logic to make him understand by saying he would become his follower, by offering all his belongings, and by giving him the mysterious art. In He Feng's mind, there was no way that Su Ming could remain unmoved. Do you have any other questions? If I know the answers to them, I'll definitely tell you. He Feng put on a sincere expression and looked at Su Ming, speaking weakly. However, he was accumulating light within his body, and it was becoming stronger. The reason why he had the confidence to kill Su Ming with one move was because he had originally thought Su Ming would run far away after he escaped from Xian Lun's attack, but instead the other still lurked around the place. From this, he could deduce that Su Ming was not hiding his real power, but had with him a powerful enchanted vessel. His level of cultivation was truly only at the 7th level of the blood solidification realm. If they were far from each other, He Feng would hesitate on acting, but if they were so close, he had the confidence that he could kill this person before he had the time to activate his enchanted vessel. However, he had to first make sure that this NAVE person who still lacked any processing abilities lost his wariness. This person should still ask me why Xian Lun would come after my life so many times. After all, the power levels between Xian Lun and I are too far. Anyone would see that there's something off about this. Even if he doesn't ask me that, he'll ask about my relationship with Han Feizi. When Han Feizi saved me, this person was watching underneath. He Feng had already formulated his answers, and how he would handle the situation. He was just waiting for Su Ming to ask him. As he answered the question, he would make this person lose his wariness and act at that moment. My final question is. Su Ming looked at He Feng and let his question hang. He Feng's expression remained blank, but nervousness flooded his heart once again. Are you done preparing for your counterattack? As the words fell lightly into He Feng's ears, his heart trembled, but a baffled expression appeared on his face, as if he could not understand Su Ming's words. The moment the baffled look appeared on his face, He Feng suddenly widened his eyes. They seemed to pierce through Su Ming, who was standing dozens of feet away from him, and looked at the sky behind him. An appalled look appeared on his face, and he shuddered. Xian Lun. The moment his words left his mouth, He Feng quickly opened his mouth wide, and a dim light flew out. That dim light let out a flash and closed in on Su Ming in the blink of an eye. Li is a unit of measurement in China. 1 li is equivalent to 500 m, or 0.31 miles. I chose to use li instead of converting it to miles or using the metric system because, 1. If 1 li was equivalent to half a mile, I would have used miles. But as it were, saying please walk 310 miles into the distance, and you'll find my tribe sounded a little off to me, so I decided to retain the Chinese unit of measurement. 2. The metric system is the same. It is also too precise, and that sort of precision did not exist at that time. Also, if you want to know more about li, you can go to Wikipedia and type in li. They go into great detail about the li system in a Wikipedia style there, and it's pretty accurate. Chapter 127, The Secret of Han Mountain City. He Feng could only act rashly. Su Ming had already exposed his true intentions. He could not tell whether Su Ming was just testing him or if he really knew, but he did not have any time to think. He could only activate his attack beforehand. The dim light he had been accumulating in his body was already on standby. If Su Ming was tricked and turned back the moment the dim light appeared, then it would be difficult for him to avoid the attack. But He Feng had underestimated his opponent. Su Ming did not turn back. The moment He Feng attacked, moonlight descended upon his body and turned into a screen of faint light before him. The formless souls of the wings of the moon also enveloped his body. The small ball of dim light crashed into the screen of moonlight in an instant. It let out a bright flash, and its speed decreased slightly. Yet the dim light was He Feng's desperate attack. Sign he had reached transcendence, the power of his final attack was still powerful even though he was currently incredibly weakened. The screen of light shattered. The dim light pierced through and landed on Su Ming's body, but strangely, it passed through him and went into the rainforest in the distance. There was no sound, but hundreds of feet away, the rainforest was turned into ashes and disappeared into thin air. As the dim light pierced through Su Ming's body, his figure shimmered slightly. Another Su Ming appeared by its side, and as it appeared, the figure that was pierced through turned into an apparition and disappeared. All this happened in an instant, and anyone who saw it would think their eyes were playing tricks on them. My specialty is speed, Su Ming said slowly, looking at Yifeng, who was in disbelief, and walked towards him one step at a time. Su Ming was prepared for what had happened. When the screen of moonlight acted as a momentary block, he had completely avoided the dim light. Yifeng fell silent and glared at Su Ming. He had already completely fallen into despair and did not bother hiding it. There was a ferocious and resolute look in his eyes. If you had seen through my attack a long time ago, why did you give me the chance? Yifeng asked with a sullen voice as he laid down on the ground. Because I need you to be near death, Su Ming answered, walking closer to Yifeng. Me? Near death? You grew up really quickly after getting caught in the trap, but you're still NAVE. Yifeng's pupils shrank, and he let out a vicious bark of laughter. He knew that he would definitely die this day, but if he had to die, he would drag the person who had killed him along to hell. The only thing he regretted then would be that he could not kill Xianlun with his own hands. What he had to do was to trigger his blood veins to explode without any care for consequences. He might be weakened, but no matter how weakened he had already reached the transcendence realm. His qi may be dull, but it was still lively. As long as his qi still had energy left, then if he threw everything out, he could still self-destruct. Yet the moment he was about to self-destruct, Yifeng's expression changed. A thing like this had never occurred before Su Ming's eyes. This change meant that Yifeng's beliefs were shattered. He stammered out his words. This. How could this? Yifeng's face was pale. Just like a person who wanted to commit suicide suddenly discovering that the blade in his hands had turned into a soft piece of cloth, he discovered that his qi was not just dull, but had lost its liveliness. It was like dead water now. He had no way of making his blood veins burst and explode. Su Ming crouched down and looked at Yifeng, who had a baffled expression on his face, before he let out a sigh. In terms of intelligence, I can't compare to you. From the very first moment we met each other, you've been plotting against me right until now. Yet you forgot one thing, the miasma within the rainforest. I let you drag out the time because I was worried that if I drove you into a corner, you would choose to self-destruct. If that was the case, then I wouldn't obtain anything. The more you speak and think in this miasma, your heart will beat faster and your breathing will become quicker, and you'll breathe in more of this miasma. If you had been circulating your qi for a long period of time, then it would have been fine. You could have counteracted the miasma which you've been ignoring when you were at peak condition. Even if you healed yourself here, as long as you circulated your qi, then you wouldn't be injured by this miasma. Yet you did not dare do that before because you were too careful. Even if you had accumulated that dim light for a counterattack, you still breathed in too much of the miasma, which will cause your qi to lose its liveliness, making it hard for you to trigger self-destruction. Su Ming looked at Yifeng and spoke calmly. Ever since the beginning, he had been circulating his qi within his body. Yifeng noticed this a long time ago, but had simply thought that Su Ming was being cautious. He did not expect that it was due to the miasma. Yifeng laughed bitterly. This time it was real. He looked at Su Ming. His vision had begun to become blurry, but he was forcing himself not to fall unconscious. Looking at Su Ming still reminded him of his past self, but it was clear that this young man was much calmer compared to himself. I have no regrets dying in your hands. It's a pity that I can't exact my vengeance. I don't know your name, so I'll just call you Brother Qiú. Brother Qiú. Yifeng panted harshly. His consciousness was beginning to fade away. He struggled to bite his tongue, forcing himself to remain conscious. Brother Qiú, please help me kill Xianlun, then bring his head back to my tribe and offer it to the deceased spirits of my people. I will promise you everything you ask. Wanting me in a near-death state means that you want to create a puppet. If I'm doing this willingly, it'll be better for you. If you promise me to help me kill Xianlun, then I'll let you do whatever you want to me. I don't ask that you kill him now, but when your power is strong enough, please help me fulfill my request. Yifeng's breathing became even more rapid. As he panted harshly, he looked at Su Ming expectantly. I won't let you do this without any rewards. I have a valuable treasure to give you. Xianlun destroyed my tribe, then kept coming after my blood, and Han Feizi saved me for this treasure as well. I hid this treasure in a secret location, not daring to keep it on my person. Due to my tribe's branding art, even Han Fei Zi will find it hard to probe into my memories with berserker arts. Xianlun and her also seem to not want more people knowing about this. Only I know about its location in this world. That's why I cowed move around so freely. Because they're stronger than I am, one of them showed kindness to me and the other came after my life, thinking that they could control me, but they underestimated me. I had long since seen that they were not as they seemed. The two had collaborated with each other and were just putting on a farce. Yet there was also conflict and suspicion between them. They're both hiding things from each other, and it created a chance for me. I only needed to challenge the chains of Han Mountain once to see through their relationship. Their acting was far too fake. One of them has Lake of Colors tribe behind them, and the other is from Puqiang tribe. These two tribes were once slave tribes. Do they think I'm dumb? They were plotting against me, but I was also using them. If it weren't because I needed Han Fei Zi's help to join the 16 Dark Souls sect and become a member in their outlying group, I could have obtained more benefits in Han Mountain City. He Feng's vision had already become clouded. He had hidden these words in his heart for a long time. Now, in his despair, it was as if he had obtained an outlet, and in his dizzy state, he told Su Ming everything. Brother Shu, I came from a small tribe. We didn't even number to 200 people. Very few know about this, but my tribe was a branch of the Han Mountain tribe that ruled over Han Mountain City hundreds of years ago. Han Mountain tribe was massacred by the 3 slave tribes, but we survived. But now, I am the only one left. The legends passed down in Han Mountain tribe told us that our ancestor from Han Mountain tribe was not originally one of the Berserker tribe. His background was incredibly mysterious. He settled down here, and thousands of years later, Han Mountain tribe was formed. That was why I had an art that was different from Berserker arts, one that allowed me to sense your presence. This is a technique left behind by our ancestor, who also left behind some great treasures for us, his descendants. But 3 of them were snatched away by the 3 slave tribes in the past. There's one left, and that's the great treasure I'm talking about. Su Ming looked at He Feng, whose speech was beginning to muddle up. He listened to his words, who was gradually exposing the secrets surrounding Han Mountain City. Han Mountain City belongs to Han Mountain tribe. It was built by my ancestor, who founded my tribe. There's also a place hidden in the deep canyons under the chains of Han Mountain in Han Mountain City. It is a place the 3 small slave tribes dream about going. That place is where the ancestor of Han Mountain City died. He Feng mumbled, and as he looked at Su Ming, the expectant look in his eyes became stronger. I don't hate the 3 slave tribes. Tribes come and go, and the law of nature depicts survival of the fittest. I don't hate Han Fei Zi either. She may be aiming for the treasure, but she was kind to me. I had originally intended that if I could not make it, then I would give the treasure to her. The only one I hate is Xianlun. He killed my family and slaughtered my people. Kill him. Promise me. Help me. Kill him. Su Ming fell into silence. There was no need for him to listen to the request of a person who was near death for him to create spirit plunder. In fact, if that person had a grudge, the effects would be even better, but at that moment, Su Ming looked at He Feng and nodded. If my power becomes strong enough to kill him, then I promise you, I'll take revenge for you. Brother Shu, thank you. He Feng closed his eyes and mumbled out a sentence that only Su Ming could hear. Those words revealed the location where He Feng hid the treasure. There's something else in my bosom. There were originally 3 of these. Xianlun snatched one away. I gave Han Fei Zi one of them as a gift, and the last, I'll give it to you. As He Feng spoke, he sank into unconsciousness and became still. Su Ming took He Feng's body in his arms and picked up the small bottle from the side. He did not linger around the area, dashing into the distance. He did not leave the rainforest, but ran further into the distance and disappeared without a trace. To him, compared to the areas outside the forest, the big rainforest was safer. When Xianlun returned, he would search this place with most care, but it would also be the place where he would miss the most details. As Su Ming ran through the rainforest, a complicated look appeared on his face. He Feng was a person who thought and planned a lot. Su Ming had first-hand experience of his words and actions. The secret hidden in Han Mountain City also proved Su Ming's previous theory of why powerful berserkers gathered in Han Mountain City and why the three tribes kept taking in guests. He Feng. Su Ming sighed. This person's plots left Su Ming with no choice. The only thing he could do was to walk down the path laid out for him. If he had not entered the dimension in the black piece of debris when he was in danger, who knew what would have happened to him then? Chapter 128. A Great Reward. Time was short. Xianlun could come back at any moment. All sorts of accidents could happen no matter how much Su Ming theorized and analyzed the situation. After what happened with He Feng, he had to admit that there was still a big difference between his intelligence compared to those who have been plotting and scheming for a long time. Sometimes, the world did not work the way you wanted it to. He carried the unconscious He Feng and ran into the miasma of the rainforest as he continued circulating his qi. As the sky gradually lit up, he used his speed and went deeper into the rainforest. The forest in these parts was very dense. The branches and leaves here were wide and big. Due to the density, even if it was daylight, the sunlight would be scattered by the leaves and branches, causing the rainforest to remain mostly in darkness. When Su Ming reached the deeper parts of the forest, the humidity also increased along with the miasma, causing some of the stranger beasts and bugs to increase. Su Ming saw centipedes the size of pythons swimming in the mud. Sight of them alone was terrifying. There were also a lot of strange plants that let out nice fragrances, but if he breathed in too much of the scent, he would feel as if he wanted to throw up his internal organs. That sweet and nice fragrance was uncanny. The sun was bright outside. It was already noon. Su Ming ran through the rainforest and heard singing voices that could not be described with words. The singing voice had a beautiful melody that sounded as if a young girl was humming, making Su Ming become enthralled by the sound. If he had not remained in constant alert and continued circulating his qi so that he quickly woke up from the trance, then the consequences would have been grave. When he snapped out, he saw that he had unknowingly walked towards a big rotten tree dozens of feet away from him. There was a white bird on one of the branches, and the 5 colors, yellow, green, white, red, and black, were shining brilliantly behind it. Yet there was an eerie big mouth looming under the 5 lights. Su Ming was alarmed. While traveling deeper and deeper, he saw a lot of things he had never seen before. When dusk arrived once again, a mountain range appeared before him. Behind the mountain range was another rainforest. There was no way of knowing where the deepest part of the rainforest lay. Yet Su Ming did not dare to continue. There was bound to be even more terrifying things in the rainforest behind the mountain range, and they were all things that he could not yet fend off with his current power. Su Ming's eyes flashed. He brought He Feng into the mountain range in the rainforest and chose a naturally formed crack before crawling into it. This was originally the resting place of a wild beast. There was a layer of shed skin left behind, and there was a faint, foul stench in the air. Su Ming swept his gaze across the cave and was certain that this was the house of a reptile. The skin is dry, and the smell is faint. It should have been a long time since the snake came back. Maybe it died outside. Su Ming fell into contemplative silence. Once he placed He Feng on the ground, he gathered up the shed skin and placed it at the entrance of the cave. He would use the smell to repel all those strange plants, beasts, and insects from bothering him. Although he did this, Su Ming's heart remained nervous. Yet once he mulled over it, he gradually relaxed. This place was far away from where Xianlun and He Feng had fought each other. The chances of Xianlun finding this place were not too high. Besides, Su Ming could not think of a better place to put He Feng. From another viewpoint, this was the only place that was marginally safe. Still immersed in his thoughts, Su Ming cast his eyes on He Feng. The man was still in an unconscious state. On their way here, He Feng had breathed in even more miasma. If it were not for his incredible power and having transcended, then he would have died a long time ago due to his grave injuries. He might be hanging on to his life for now, but he could not wake up. As time passed by, death would gradually close in on him. Besides avoiding Xianlun, Su Ming also chose this place to make sure that He Feng would continue to be in a weakened state, using the miasma in this place. After all, this person's power was extremely great. Once he recovered, he would not be as sincere as he was before. Su Ming might not be afraid of this Heifeng, who was gravely wounded, but he could not stop him from self-destructing. However, if miasma continued invading his body, then he could prevent Heifeng from doing so. He said that he had something for me. Su Ming did not act rashly. Heifeng was a man of many schemes, and he had first-hand experience of it. At that moment, he sat down in the cave, recalling all of Heifeng's actions and words before he fainted, and waited for dusk to pass into night. It did not take long before the sky turned darker. The mountain range Su Ming was at was low. There were only a few ridges, and most of the mountain range was covered by dense trees of the rainforest. The sky above had turned dark. The moon hung high in the sky, but the moonlight was just like the sunlight during the day. The light was scattered as it fell upon the rainforest. Even so, Su Ming could still feel that his condition reached its peak during night. Only then did he stand up and walk to stand before Heifeng. Once he scrutinized him cautiously once again, he lifted Heifeng's clothes and saw a purple item lying against his bosom. The moment he saw the purple object, Su Ming's expression changed. A sharp and piercing look immediately appeared in his eyes. He stared at the purple object on Heifeng's bosom and, gradually, a dazed and nostalgic look appeared in his eyes. This item. Su Ming mumbled. The image of a person who had been forgotten appeared in his head. It was an old man with a sharp mouth and the cheeks of a monkey. That old man sold a lot of strange herbs, and he even sold Su Ming a torn bag. Just what is it? After a long while, Su Ming crouched down and lifted the purple object from Heifeng's bosom. He placed it before his eyes and saw that besides the color, this purple object was practically identical to the torn bag Su Ming had. However, there were no torn parts on the purple bag, and it was in complete shape. Su Ming's bag could not hope to compare with this bag. The same bags. Xianxia snatched one away. One was given to Han Feizi, the ancestor of Han Mountain tribe, left behind 4 great treasures. Lake of Colors, Puqiang, and Tranquil East snatched one away each. There's one treasure left, and it was hidden away by Heifeng. In the canyons under Han Mountain City lies the greatest secret of the city. That place is where the ancestor of Han Mountain tribe died. If that's the case, then does it mean that these are all the inheritances left behind by the ancestor of Han Mountain City? Su Ming's eyes became even more clouded. He had a feeling that there was a bigger secret lying within that purple bag. He looked at the purple bag in his hands silently. If it was anything else that he had never seen before, he would need to ponder over it for some time before opening it slowly, but there was no need for him to do so with this bag. Su Ming's eyes flashed. He lifted his left hand and patted the bag. The moment he did so, a rebounding force immediately came from the bag. Su Ming was stunned. He had never encountered this before. However, the rebounding force was extremely weak. As he circulated his qi under fine control, the rebounding force dissipated in the span of a few breaths, allowing Su Ming's left hand to land on the surface of the bag. His mind shook, and an image of a dimension of hundreds of feet appeared in his head. Su Ming closed his eyes, opening them only after a long time had passed by. There was a look of pleasant surprise that was difficult to conceal in his eyes. As he lifted his left hand, a bright light flashed in his hand, and a bamboo slip appeared in his palm. It looked like an ancient artifact. It may not be broken, but there was an aged feeling coming from it. This was the item Heifeng said contained the art that was completely different from berserker arts. It could allow Su Ming to have a clear grasp of another person's power and turn it into a brand. As long as he was not too far away from the branded person, then he could lock onto him. He placed the item aside, and another flash appeared in his left hand. In his palm lay a white bone. That bone was completely white, and when it appeared, there was a mirage above the bone, causing the person who saw it for the first time to be caught in a daze. Su Ming could even hear piercing and mourning cries echoing in his ears. Yet when he snapped out of his daze, all of these dissipated away. I don't know where this bone came from. Did this bone belong to a man or a beast? But since such a strange thing happened because of it, then perhaps I can use it to plant herbs. Su Ming stared at the bone in his hands before grabbing the purple bag with his right hand and turning it upside down by his side. With a crash, a large amount of items tumbled out of the purple bag, glittering on the ground. The light in the cave may have been lacking, but Su Ming could still see clearly. Most of the items were stone coins. There were not many white coins, and most of them were low-ranked ones tainted with other colors. Still, the large amount was shocking. This is worth at least tens of thousands. Su Ming took a deep breath. This was the largest amount of money he had ever seen in his life. Yet very soon, his eyes landed on the 2 red stones lying among the stone coins. The red hue of the stones was striking. Although the cave was dark, it was still difficult to dim out the light coming from the 2 red stone coins. Besides these, Su Ming also found several small bottles. There were different liquids contained within them. Some had a nice fragrance, some were odorless, some stank, and some let out a refreshing fragrance. It would have been fine if that was all, but lying among the items was a piece of beast skin. There were 2 berserker arts written on it. When Su Ming read them, the light in his eyes became brighter. It's a pity there's no berserker vessel, but that's to be expected. He Feng must have used up most of the things that he could when he fought against Xianlun. While mumbling, Su Ming's gaze suddenly focused on 2 obviously unique objects lying among the pile of items. One was a white stone box about the size of a palm. The other was a black mask made from some unknown material. When Su Ming looked at it, he felt as if his gaze was about to be sucked in. He first took up the white stone box. After observing it with a couple careful looks, he was prompted to action. He did not know what was in there, but the box was made solely of melted and refined white stone coins. This stone box did not seem big, but it was actually quite heavy. Just how many white stone coins were used? Su Ming was momentarily stunned. He did not expect that stone coins could be used in such a manner. To him, they were just objects used for trading. However, the appearance of the stone box made him think that his previous assumption was somewhat wrong. Could it be that these stone coins can not only be used for trading, but also other things? Inspired, Su Ming opened the stone box. When he saw what lay inside, he was startled. This is Chapter 129, A Piece of Beast Skin. It was Su Ming's dream to reach the Transcendence Realm, hence his knowledge regarding it was not limited to the information provided by beast skin scrolls. He had also obtained the knowledge provided by the Elder over the years. Su Ming knew that transcendence meant that once the solidified blood veins reached a certain amount in the body, an earth-shaking change would occur. That change was like a butterfly breaking out of a cocoon. The solidified blood veins would spread out from the body and turn into berserker blood. Then the person could use his berserker blood to draw a mark on his own body. Everyone's mark was different. There was not a single mark that was identical to another in the world. Even if they looked similar, there were still differences. The berserker mark would be drawn based on the individual's vague sensation of the mark he found within himself. However, if he could not find that sensation, then he had to deliberately draw a berserker mark on his own body. Yet if that was the case, then that mark would be much weaker in terms of power. That was why there were some people who had already reached the Transcendence Realm, but still chose not to draw their own berserker marks. They did not want to regret their decisions, so they rather were stuck in that stage and searched long and hard for that indescribable feeling. The moment the berserker mark was drawn, it would be impossible to change it. On top of that, the more complex the mark was, the training would also become more difficult. Their training speed could not compare to those who had simple berserker marks. Yet even though it was hard, if the berserker succeeded, then the one with the complex mark would be much stronger than all the other berserkers in the same stage. The success rate of reaching Transcendence Realm was related to the amount of solidified blood veins. The more blood veins a berserker had, the more likely he was to succeed. In fact, the more blood veins the berserker had, the stronger he would be when he reached the initial stage of the Transcendence Realm. In fact, if a berserker had more than 950 blood veins, then once he transcended, the other berserkers at the initial stage of the Transcendence Realm would be no match to that person. His power may not be as strong as of those in the middle stage of the Transcendence Realm, but he would be a powerful existence among others in the initial stage of the Transcendence Realm. However, most people only had around 781 blood veins. Even if they could add to the amount of blood veins, it was difficult for them to manifest 900 of them. With that said, unless a berserker had incredible determination, persistence, luck, confidence, and the protection by his tribe, then no one could continue manifesting the blood veins in his body without getting killed in the long run. Besides, once a certain amount of blood veins had been manifested, then time no longer became a factor for a berserker's blood veins to increase. Sometimes, even if dozens of years passed by, it would still be difficult to add even one more blood vein. It was difficult transcending, yet if a berserker was satisfied with the amount of blood veins he had, then it would also be easy to transcend. It would be easy if he did not seek to gain more blood veins. It was not as if there were no transcended berserkers who only had around 800 blood veins. It all depended on a person's will. Once a berserker transcended and drew his berserker mark, then it did not matter what method he used, he had to use the onset power of the berserker mark and synthesize an item with his own body. This item would become that berserker's very first personal berserker vessel. Berserker vessels were incredibly important to all those who reached the transcendence realm. That was why those who had reached the peak of the blood solidification realm and could transcend at any time they wanted would prepare the materials for this item beforehand. This was to prevent the situation where they could not synthesize their vessel once they transcended, which would serve to cause a lot of hindrances and regret later on. Unless, of course, that person was a prodigy that belonged to a strong tribe. Those prodigies had no need to prepare materials. There would be adults who would help them receive everything they needed beforehand. After all, transcendence was a big event for all middle-sized tribes. Su Ming had once heard from the elder that if a berserker wanted to prevent the item from denying him during the synthesis, then he would need to gather one drop of blood and place it on the item. This would have to be repeated every once in a while. Only then would a connection be formed between the item and the berserker's qi so that accidents could be prevented in the future when the berserker transcended. There was a white diamond-shaped leaf lying in the white stone box in Su Ming's hand at the moment. The leaf's shape may have been odd, but the veins on it were very distinct, making it clear that it was indeed a leaf. There was a drop of blood on the leaf, though there was not much left. About a third of the veins of the leaf had turned red. This is the item Heavenly had prepared for synthesis during transcendence. Su Ming looked at the white leaf in the box, and his eyes sparkled. The value of this item far exceeded the stone coins. In fact, it would not be an exaggeration to say that its value could not be determined. To those who had already made preparations for transcendence, this was not important. Yet for those who had not made adequate preparations, the value of this thing could make them empty all the coins in their possession. Since Heavenly had placed this item in this obviously expensive stone box, then it was clear that this was not an ordinary item. After all, he was once a member of Han Mountain Tribe. Even if Han Mountain Tribe was destroyed, if he could have that purple bag and a great treasure, then it was certain that he could also have an extraordinary item for synthesis during transcendence. Su Ming stared at the leaf in the stone box, then lifted his right hand to flick at it lightly. It trembled when his qi crashed into it, and the stained blood on the leaf immediately flew out, turning into a ball of fire in midair until it burned away into nothingness. Heavenly's blood may no longer be on the leaf, but some of it had still seeped into the leaf's veins. Su Ming could not force it out in a short period of time, but he had patience. Then he turned his attention to the black mask that seemed to attract his gaze. He lifted the mask and stared at it, but he could not find any clues about it. In his silence, he lowered his head and looked at Heavenly, who remained unconscious. He got up and walked towards Heavenly before slowly placing the mask on the man's face. His actions were cautious and slow. When the mask covered Heavenly's face, he kept an eye open for any changes that could happen on his body, but right until the mask covered the whole face, nothing happened. The mask was completely black. When it covered Heavenly, it made him look as if he'd changed into another person. It was especially so since the mask only had 2 holes where the eyes should be without any other features that a face should have, causing his face to seem rather ghastly. Su Ming frowned. He was about to take the mask off when his expression changed. Right before his eyes, Heavenly's body started fading out as if he was becoming indistinct. The only thing that could be seen clearly was that mask. Su Ming let out a small gasp and took the mask away from Heavenly's face. He examined Heavenly's body and his qi carefully. Once he was certain that nothing had changed within Heavenly, he relaxed and took a few steps backward. He was just about to try on the mask when he hesitated. He did not put the mask on his face, but chose to take a few more looks at it before returning it into the purple bag. Heavenly is a man of way too many schemes. I have to be careful. Su Ming fell into pensive silence. Among these items, he was the most skeptical about the mask, but he had no way to be sure. Once he placed everything back into the bag, he looked at Yifeng's unconscious body and brought out all the herbs needed to create spirit plunder before jabbing bloody holes into Yifeng's body and placing the herbs one by one in him, according to the method of creating the pill in his head. Su Ming could not tell what was so special about these herbs. Yet the moment they were placed in Yifeng's body, they withered right before his eyes and rapidly disappeared into the bloody holes. Su Ming was not surprised when he saw this. Instead, his eyes flashed. What happened was described in the procedures to create spirit plunder in his head. This meant that Yifeng's body was suitable for creating this pill. It could even be said that it was a very good vessel for the herbs to grow. These herbs may have seemed to wither, but in truth, they had left seeds in Yifeng's body, which would then use his body as a cauldron to slowly grow. Once they had grown to a certain level, they could be used to create the pill. Once he planted all the seeds, Su Ming sat down by the side and brought out the black bone he had bought in Han Mountain City along with the white bone from Yifeng's bag. He compared them and brought out 2 herbs from his bag. Then, with the method to plant the herbs on the bones, he placed the herbs on them. He would not be able to find any clues on whether they worked in the near future. Hence, Su Ming placed the 2 bones beside Yifeng. If that white bone can be used, then I'll only need 3 more herbs and 1 beast bone to create spirit plunder. I wonder if Fang Mu can find those 3 herbs. Su Ming thought about it, then decided to leave it aside. He took out the beast skin and bamboo slip from Yifeng's bag instead and started reading them in the quiet cave. There's no hurry for me to go to the place that contains the treasure Yifeng told me about. Once it's completely safe for me, then I can go get it. I wonder what sort of treasure it is though. Su Ming read the bamboo slip and thought at the same time. 2 days passed by quickly. During these 2 days, Su Ming would occasionally observe his medicinal cauldron, and on other occasions, he would look at the herbs planted on the bones. He would also keep an eye on any possible changes outside. All his remaining time was spent learning the branding art written on the bamboo slip. The art was just as Yifeng had said. It was very mysterious, but learning it was not difficult. However, this branding art did not require the use of qi. Even if Su Ming had already understood it, he could not grasp the gist of it. That was why he could not cast it. He raised his right hand and made a gesture stiffly, as if he was pinching his fingers, then he pushed forward a few times, but he felt nothing. Just what is this art? He scratched his head and looked at the still unconscious Yifeng. He abandoned the idea of waking him up. The man's body was shuddering even though he was unconscious, as if he was in great pain. If Su Ming woke Yifeng up, then problems might arise again, especially since Xianlun might have already returned. Su Ming put away the bamboo slip and shifted his attention to the beast skin from Yifeng's bag. There were 2 berserker arts recorded on it. Su Ming had briefly read them a few days ago, and now, he used his full attention to examining them more thoroughly. Yet very soon, doubt appeared on his face. I only need 20 blood veins to practice these berserker arts? And with 99 blood veins, I can already bring about their full potential. There's nothing of use to me on this beast skin. Unless this is something from the tradable, and Yifeng's keeping it around as a memento, there should be no need for him to carry it around. Su Ming looked at the beast skin again before he placed it by his side. With a frown, he looked at the unconscious Yifeng. This person is extraordinarily intelligent. It's understandable if he was just bringing a memento around in remembrance of his tribe. But I feel that something is wrong. Su Ming grabbed the beast skin by his side and cast his gaze on it again. Yet he still could not discover anything. Did I make a wrong guess? A sparkle appeared in Su Ming's eyes. He placed the beast skin under his nose, and the moment he sniffed it, his eyes lit up brightly. Yet at that very moment, a muffled boom suddenly traveled from outside. The roars of wild beasts were mixed in that booming sound. Something had happened in the rainforest. Su Ming immediately put away the beast skin and a wary look appeared on his face. His heart pounded against his chest, and he went to the side of the entrance of the cave before looking out cautiously. Chapter 130. Red Meadow. It was not dark outside. Yet even so, the rainforest remained engulfed in darkness. Muffled booming sounds traveled from far away, mixed with the roars and cries of beasts and birds. It was as if a huge change had occurred in the rainforest in the distance. Su Ming stood at the side of the entrance to the cave and trained his gaze towards the location with a cool expression. Time trickled by. The booming sound continued traveling out, and it sounded as if it was coming from very close to him. As it became clearer, it made Su Ming think that there was someone closing in on him at a terrifying speed. He clenched his right fist, and a cold look appeared in his eyes, but he remained unmoving. It was as if he had turned into a statue at the entrance of the cave. After a long while, once the booming sound was not far from where he was, it started quieting down. Yet the moment it started fading away, a huge bang far stronger than the previous sound rang out suddenly. Su Ming's eyes fell upon the gaps between the countless wide leaves, and he saw a figure skidding through the sky. That figure was still far away from where Su Ming was, so he could only see him faintly. That figure roared at the skies. His roar contained an indescribable fury, and he turned into a long arc that sped into the distance. Very soon, he disappeared. That person was Xianxia. When the person left, Su Ming felt his body relax. The cold look in his eyes disappeared. He had also doubted his decision to stay in the rainforest, but while the rainforest was the most dangerous place for him to stay, it was also the easiest place for him to be overlooked. Besides, this place was too big. Even powerful berserkers of the Transcendence realm would find it difficult to search the entire forest. It was also highly feasible that it was not a possible feat. Su Ming watched Xianxia leave, but he did not act rashly. He chose instead to return to the cave without making a sound. He had already made up his mind to not leave the cave unless it was completely safe. In his silence, Su Ming sat down. He looked at the unconscious Heaven with a complicated gaze. Once he went through the incident with him, Su Ming had a deeper understanding of the sinister nature of the human heart. Su Ming rubbed the center of his brows, and fatigue appeared on his face as he sat in the dark and quiet cave. That fatigue did not stem from his body, but his heart. After a while, he made himself focus and took up the beast skin which had borne him rewards during his observations just moments ago. He placed it under his nose and sniffed it once again. A stench of blood wafted into his nose. It's natural for beast skins to still contain the stench of blood, but as time passes by, this smell will grow fainter until it disappears. This beast skin has clearly been around for a long time. It's impossible for it to have such a thick stench of blood. Su Ming's eyes sparkled and he mumbled under his breath as he looked at the beast skin in his hands. But if the owner of the beast skin always sprays fresh blood on it, then the smell will stay for a long time. If he is just keeping the beast skin as a memento for his tribe, he wouldn't need to do this. Su Ming lifted his head and cast a glance at Heaven as a contemplative look appeared in his eyes. Perhaps my guess is wrong, but if I'm right, then this item is definitely not as simple as it looks. Su Ming stood up and went beside Heaven with the beast skin. There was a brief period of hesitation, but very soon, he jabbed Heaven's arm with one finger resolutely and opened up a wound, squeezing out a little of the small amount of blood remaining in the body. He hesitated for a moment and decided not to use all of it. He only took a little and spread it on the beast skin before withdrawing a few steps and focusing his gaze on it. The moment Heaven's blood was spread on the beast's skin, it was immediately absorbed. When Su Ming backed away to look at it, the beast's skin had already completely absorbed Heaven's blood. Bubbles appeared on its surface, and wisps of black mist spread out. It seemed to be covered by bubbles that quickly spread to all parts of the beast's skin, and the black mist also increased as the bubbles increased. Su Ming immediately let go and threw the beast's skin on the ground, his eyes sparkling. Right in front of him, the black mist became incredibly thick and enveloped the entire beast skin within. Su Ming circulated his qi and remained alert, but as time passed by, the black mist did not seem to have sufficient energy to grow thicker. It gradually spread out and became smaller before it eventually dissipated, revealing an unchanged beast skin on the ground. Su Ming frowned and swept his gaze across the beast skin. With just one glance, he saw that the drop of blood he spread on the skin moments ago had disappeared. Was the blood not enough? He cast a glance at the unconscious Heaven and recalled the sight of the black mist on the beast skin. This time, he did not hesitate. He bit his tongue and coughed out a mouthful of his own blood on the beast skin. The moment the blood landed on the beast's skin, a large amount of bubbles appeared. At the same moment, black mist spread out and enveloped the entire beast's skin. The time taken for this to happen was cut in half, a clear sign that this was because there was enough blood acting as a stimulant this time. In an instant, the black mist that had enveloped the beast's skin spread out and turned into a black ripple in the shape of a ring. Once it traveled dozens of feet outwards, the black mist disappeared into the walls of the mountain cave. At the same time, Su Ming's breathing became rapid. Right before his eyes, when the mist spread out, the beast's skin that had been hidden underneath was revealed. There were no longer any words on the beast's skin, only a complex picture. The picture itself was completely red, but there was no way of knowing what was drawn since it looked as if there was still a lot of missing parts. Just as Su Ming focused his gaze on the picture on the beast's skin, it started to strangely expand rapidly. It spread all around, and in an instant, it went underneath Feng's body and Su Ming's feet, covering an area of 100 feet around them, causing the area of 100 feet to turn into a red world. Su Ming did not dodge. He stood in the 100 feet covered in red. During that instant, he fell into a trance, and a strange image appeared in his head. When he saw the image, it was as if he had come to a strange world. He saw grass plains, and on the plains was a man whose body was obscured. He wore a long robe and on his face was a black mask. He had his hands behind his back and looked as if he was staring at the sky. There were hundreds of long arcs whistling through the sky. In every single arc was a presence that was not weaker than transcendence. Some of them even gave off a presence that far exceeded it. The hundreds of long arcs in the sky caused the sky to be lit in bright colors when they closed in. Rays of light appeared when the art was cast, and most of them descended upon the man down below. It was a shocking sight to behold. Su Ming's heart trembled. He looked at the sights before him at a loss. Yet immediately, he saw the man wearing the familiar black mask on the plains raise his right hand. A gigantic beast skin appeared in his hand. He held it with one hand and laid it out horizontally before pressing it on the ground as it floated in the air. The moment the beast skin was pushed onto the ground, the entire earth let out a rumble. The beast skin expanded rapidly and spread to its surroundings quickly. In an instant, it covered a circumference of 100 li. The plains, which were a 100 li area, were no longer a green grassland, but a red meadow. There were also red plants growing on it, causing the area of 100 li inside to be vastly different to the area outside. A ghastly presence spread out. The rays of light from the hundreds of the arts closed in on the man, but before they could even get near to the masked man, they faded away above him as if they landed on a formless barrier. At that moment, the masked man grabbed at thin air with his right hand. Immediately, an eerie beast fang about 7 feet long appeared in his hand, and he stabbed it onto the red meadow by his side. The instant the giant fang stabbed the earth, the fang turned red. A 3-headed blood dragon took shape and sped towards the hundreds of long arcs in the sky, roaring. The masked man quickly brought out another sharp fang and stabbed it on the other side of the red meadow. The fang turned red instantly as well, and a shadow took shape. That shadow exuded a malicious presence, and it was somewhat similar to the fallen god of berserkers Tu had summoned a few years ago. The shadow took a step forward and charged towards the hundreds of long arcs in the sky. A booming sound echoed through the world, and Su Ming opened his eyes. There was sweat beading on his forehead. His breathing was rapid, and his eyes gradually became clear. He looked at his surroundings and found that he was still inside the mountain cave. Yet a red meadow had appeared in an area of 100 feet under his feet. Besides the size, the red hue of the meadow was exactly the same as in the illusion he'd seen when he was in the trance. Su Ming's heart thumped against his heart, and he took a long while before he calmed down. He looked at the red meadow that spanned the area of 100 feet, and a bright light gradually appeared in his eyes. He stepped on the 100 feet of red land and walked towards the entrance of the cave. When he looked back, there was not a hint of red in the cave, as if everything had been just an illusion. Even Feng had disappeared without a trace. The cave was empty. Su Ming withdrew and walked back into the area of the red meadow. Once he did so, everything returned to normal. Feng still lay on the ground, unconscious. No wonder Feng could survive till now after his tribe was destroyed and had escaped Xian Lun's pursuit so many times. He may possess extraordinary intelligence, but if it weren't for this treasure, it would have still been hard for him to survive till now. This item might have really possessed the might I saw in the illusion, but now it's already torn. Even so, it still has shocking concealing powers. He Feng is covered head to toe in treasures. Su Ming took a deep breath. This was the first time he had received so many precious items in his life, and all of these had originally belonged to He Feng. But I wonder why he didn't use this treasure to hide himself when Xian Lun was after his life. Su Ming looked at the red meadow that spanned the area of 100 feet. He walked out once again and left the cave. Before long, he dashed back, and behind him was a centipede about dozens of feet long. It chased after him ferociously. When Su Ming stepped into the area of the red meadow, that centipede, too, entered the area. Su Ming's eyes flashed, and he withdrew a few steps, training his eyes on the centipede that he had lured in. When the centipede entered the area of the 100 feet, it started circling around as if unable to see Su Ming standing before it. After a moment, the centipede let out a frustrated roar. An excited look appeared on Su Ming's face. He had already ascertained the concealing abilities of this beast's skin. They should be incredibly strong. At that moment, he raised his right hand and pointed at the centipede. The centipede's head exploded with a bang in an instant, and it died on the spot, its body twisting on the ground. Yet the moment it died, Su Ming's eyes flashed, and surprise appeared on his face. Chapters 126 through 130 conclude with Su Ming officially turning his gaze toward the horizon. The arc of Han Mountain City has tempered him, but the trials of a great sect will be unlike anything he has faced before. He carries the secrets of the 9 tolls with him into a world of even greater predators. Thank you for listening to Pursuit of the Truth on Panda Audiobooks. Do you think Su Ming will find the answers he's looking for at the Heavenly Cold Sect? Let us know in the comments. Join us next time for chapters 131 to 135 as we enter the gates of the elite. Like, subscribe, and keep pursuing the truth.